Welcome back to the Mom Guilt Toolbox. We are on our third tool, which is integrity. And the first part of integrity, I think, is it's about creating boundaries. So one of the things that I've realized over the last, I don't know, maybe 3 years is that communication is something that's actually really interesting. And some of the discussions and arguments that I've had in my relationship have been over like the definition of a word. And I think one of the reasons for this is because we learn language through communication, through context, through most of us don't go through the dictionary and read the words and read the words in the dictionary to figure out the definition of everything. So we all kind of have a different definition of what things are. And so, my definition of what a boundary is could be different than your definition. And so a lot of times our arguments come from like you could see it all over social media. People are arguing over the same point. And from the outsider's point of view, you can tell that they are agreeing. They're just arguing over not understanding a different word. So back to boundaries. I have been had a home-based business for the last 10 years. I just celebrated my 10-year anniversary just recently. And one of the things that I'm going to use an example from my business, and you can use whatever example in your life, but so a clear boundary. Sometimes people think like, okay, I'm going to go make phone calls, and they think that they've not only have they set the boundary, but then they get irritated that their kids or their spouse don't follow the boundary. But the boundary wasn't clear. I'm making phone calls. Okay, that's awesome. What does that mean? So a very clear boundary is I'm making phone calls at from 7 to 8, and please don't interrupt me between 7 and 8. And a funny example is unless there's blood, then you can interrupt me. And then ask them to repeat it back to you. So what am I doing? And when is it okay to interrupt me? So those are the kinds of things that we can do, and it takes a little bit longer. But when you set a clear boundary and someone breaks that boundary and you actually got a receipt from them and said, okay, when am I making calls? When are you allowed to interrupt me? Then you can go back to them and say, you know what, it's actually 7:55. So I have 5 more minutes before I'm done with my phone calls. I will answer your question in 5 minutes. And then you can go back to doing what you're doing. So that is the example that I have for setting boundaries, and how that relates to integrity is a lot of times we think that we've set those boundaries and we get irritated about our boundaries being broken. When in reality, most of the time, we just don't set the boundaries clearly. So I hope that's helped you today, and tune in next time for another integrity in the Mom Guilt Toolbox. Have a great one.